So that regression hypnosis session that I personally experienced was the trigger for me knowing in that moment that that's exactly what I want to be doing. It was so impactful. I had such a strong desire to help other people going through the same type of transformation where you have one afternoon that you spend relaxing on a bed, going deep, and then so much in your life can shift. So I then studied and became a practitioner soon after. And the conversations always were around first finding out about personal upbringing, and then I always ask about the story of their parents. What did they go through, especially when a person was between 0 and 7 years old? And I always also ask about the grandparents because there was a clear pattern every single client. The generational patterns are so powerful, so strong, and they truly need to be addressed. There's so much that we are unconsciously repeating to a point where one story where my client was conceived at the back of the car seat while her parents had a couple of drinks, and then she lost her virginity in exactly the same situation as one example. And there's so many others. There's so many repetitions of this type. The guidance that always occurred from the higher self when we connected on a soul level was to recognize the difference between biological parents and their human body conditioning anchored in generational trauma, and the difference between our celestial divine parents, representation of divine feminine energy of pure love emanation and wisdom, and representation of divine masculine as that light and structure, sacred geometry that is holding everything in place, and allowing that to start nourishing us from inside out, and then recalibrating the DNA patterning and guiding us back towards that balance between the two, where we allow sense of feeling supported, where we allow the knowing that we are connected to that unconditional love and infinite wisdom, and then everything else that comes with it. So the sessions that were most impactful were when clients allowed themselves to remember the deep love there is for their own soul from within their own being, kind of restoring connection with the divine within us. I think that's such an important step in our healing journey.
Hey everyone, welcome back to the Cycle Starters podcast, the show where we explore what it takes to break patterns, begin again, and start new cycles in our lives, our families, and our communities. I'm your host, Heather Rebecca Wilson, and today's episode is a really meaningful one for me. I am honored to welcome my teacher and my mentor, Julia Balaz, to the podcast for the very first time. Julia is a galactic astrology researcher and the creator of the Quantum Soul Guidance Method. For more than a decade, Julia has supported people in making sense of the deeper stories carried in their lives and lineages. Through her teaching, her research, and her work with practitioners around the world, she has helped so many people reconnect with their own inner knowing and expand what they believe is possible. In today's conversation, we're going to talk about Julia's path into this work, what shaped the way she thinks about healing and consciousness, and the threads that have guided her as she built a practice that has touched so many lives. We'll explore cycles, initiations, and what it means to step into your role when you can feel something bigger trying to move through you. And later in the episode, we'll also dip into some of the themes Julia sees in the sky and how those energies can mirror the larger story that we're living. So stay with us to the end for that. Before we jump into today's conversation, I do have a favor to ask. If you are enjoying the content that we are creating here on the Cycle Starters podcast, please like, subscribe, comment, and share. It really supports the algorithm in getting our episodes in front of more viewers. You can also subscribe to my publication on Substack that is called The Cycle Architect, so you can follow me there. And without further ado, let's welcome Julia to the show. I'm so grateful you're here.
Thank you, Heather. Thank you for that beautiful introduction. It's such an honor to be called teacher. I really feel more like a sister to you and maybe act as a spark of your remembrance. Thank you so much for everything you're doing. The topic that you're focusing on is dear to my heart. So I am really excited about where this conversation will take us.
I'm so happy that you're here. And truthfully, I'm a little nervous because I've been, anticipating this day for such a long time. And this really is a dream come true. So I'm just so appreciative. So thank you again. I want to start with your blood ancestors. What can you share with us about your blood ancestry?
From my mother's side, my great-grandparents hailed to Slovakia, where I was born and raised. They hailed from Poland and apparently further up north from Nordic countries, Estonia, and maybe even further up north if we go many, many, many generations back. And from my father's side, my great-grandparents hailed from Hungary and many, many more generations before them, all the way to Greece, maybe Turkey, maybe further down towards the Black Sea. So the more kind of immediate 3 generations back is Hungary and Poland, but born and raised in Slovakia. And after first 20 years, I moved to Ireland. And for over 20 years, I'm living in Ireland.
Excellent. Okay. So a lot of cultures mixed into your lineages. So that's really interesting. Thank you for sharing that. Well, so I have a 2-part question for you now. So I want to know, when did the concept of ancestral healing enter your consciousness, insofar as when did you realize patterns can be passed down from generation to generation? But also, when did you become empowered around all of this, in the sense of, okay, this is what I inherited, and I'm not going to be a victim to this. I am going to start new cycles. I'm going to shift these patterns in my lineages.
I've been aware of deep psychology and kind of how everything connects with everything, how our environment shapes us, how our family shapes us, culture shapes us. Since my early teens, I always wandered to the section in library where you found books about all these kinds of topics. But my personal journey, where I really dive deeper into exactly what you shared, started when my daughter was around 2 years old, and she started that beautiful misbehaving stage as any 2-year-olds do, checking for boundaries, right? But what I really didn't expect is how it triggered anger in me. And I'm really not an angry person. And it was escalating to the point where it felt like this big, heavy stuff in my solar plexus area. And I just knew and felt that there was something more hidden there and that I need to follow that thread. And the idea of regression hypnosis came to mind because I had a sense that this is deeper than what is in my conscious awareness. I had a nice childhood, so I thought this is going to have to be something from previous incarnations or maybe something ancestral. Booked my regression hypnosis session, and to my surprise, I was taken to my early childhood, suppressed memories, witnessing my parents fighting after they had few drinks, and a lot of suppressed anger about how could they, while children were in the second room. I felt unseen, unheard, and this occurred multiple times. It wasn't just a one-time occurrence. But in that regression session, I released all that anger through my left knee area. During the session, I had insane amount of pain in the left knee, and it was just like releasing, like that the pain was matching how much suppressed anger was there. So that was the first time that I experienced releasing suppressed energetical knots from my body, and then seeing the immediate ripple effect of that in my immediate reality when I came home after that session and my 2-year-old was still misbehaving, there was sense of peace and understanding and compassion, and I was able to handle that much better. So that was kind of first big one. And then later on, I addressed ancestral imprints when I started building my business. And in particular, in 2022, my business expanded rapidly. And I didn't really have support around the business foundation that would hold me while the massive expansion occurred. So I was working crazy amount of hours and developed cervical precancerous cells. So my body was telling me that I cannot keep pushing and holding everything to the extent I am. Like, this is not the way to go. So that was a beautiful wake-up call to realizing how much was actually in my masculine mode of operandus and the feminine was very suppressed. So I took an entire year looking at my mother's patterns and realizing how much she was in masculine mode, fully operating in that still to this day, and realizing how that was passed down to her from her mother because her husband passed away while when he was 36. So she had 4 young children to take care of. My mother was the eldest. So they both had great disappointment in the masculine representation in their life that let them down for whatever reason. And I had experienced around the same age when my mother's father died. I believe she was 16. When I was 16, I had a great disappointment in my own father. And in that moment, I swore to myself that I will do all in my power to be financially independent and to never, ever, ever need to rely on anyone in my life but me. And that was my trigger or motivation of moving away from pain rather than moving towards pleasure, as these seem to be the key factors. So when I was going through that healing of the imbalance masculine feminine a couple of years ago, I remembered that point and healed my relationship with divine masculine, because I realized that imbalance, or the way I felt disappointed in my father, feeling that I cannot receive support from him or even don't want to receive support from him, that rippled towards my relationship with divine masculine, with sense of God. So when that clicked and when that healed, I managed to manifest the most wonderful support team and restore balance between my feminine expression and my masculine expression. The cervical precancerous cells cleared fully after a year. And even as the business continues to grow, things just feel balanced. So instead of just striving for really in that strong masculine mode where you want to control everything and you want to be the only one responsible, caring for everything, building everything yourself, that has completely shifted to now also manifesting more from the receiving and holding space and allowing. And that's such a beautiful, beautiful and healthy way to be. So yeah, that's the story mainly.
Thank you for sharing that. And thank you for sharing so personally and vulnerably with us. I really appreciate that. Well, so what would you say if you had to put a fine point on it? What are the patterns that you feel like you're breaking in this lifetime?
The imbalance of masculine, feminine, first and foremost, and not realizing, well, certainly my mother is still in denial, thinking she's good, she's fine. But no, I can see how much it costs her to be in a masculine mode and how painful it is on a physical level for her body to be in that way. So restoring balance first and foremost between masculine and feminine. There was another layer to it. And I feel so many people can relate to this, certainly from what we observed in previous generations. I remember a moment we had with my husband in our relationship. We are together now for 26 years. And at one point, when I realized this imbalance and noticed that imbalance between role the mother and father played in his upbringing, we did this symbolic conversation and Passover of energetics where I said, I'm no longer willing to carry more than half of the load and share between us as a couple. Here, I'm giving you whatever extras I carried for you, and let's now agree that we each share 50-50 load in terms of everything within our household, and we become a team rather than him being used to mother taking a bigger share of energetical load. And that was such an amazing shift as well. And, we both grew from it. So really the key thing is about the imbalance.
Thank you for that. I feel like that's been a theme in my life as well. I feel like there's some divisiveness, some division right now between masculine and feminine. And what I've come to learn through my own journey is that we all have our own unique balance of divine masculine and divine feminine within each of us. And the world will be a more beautiful, peaceful place when those two energies can dance together in harmony. But that starts inside of ourselves, as you described, and then that radiates outward, inside of our most intimate relationships, right? In our sphere of influence. So, yeah, thank you for sharing that.
Yeah, I would just like to add that when that balance is restored as a female, it doesn't mean that I cannot operate in a masculine way any longer, but there is equal representations of action taking, controlling, planning, envisioning and building half a day. And then the other half day then has to be dedicated to receiving and holding space and allowing. Yeah.
Yeah, beautiful. All right. Well, so you mentioned a few moments ago that you received a past life regression hypnosis session as part of your ancestral healing journey. I'd love to talk about your journey getting to where you are right now. You were a QHHT practitioner, I understand, for 7 years, and that's how the modality that you've created came about. But can you tell us about your journey to getting here?
Yeah, so that regression hypnosis session that I personally experienced was the trigger for me knowing in that moment that that's exactly what I want to be doing. It was so impactful. I had such a strong desire to help other people going through the same type of transformation where you have one afternoon that you spend relaxing on a bed, going deep, and then so much in your life can shift. So I then studied and became a practitioner soon after. And the conversations always were around first finding out about personal upbringing, and then I always ask about the story of their parents. What did they go through, especially when a person was between 0 and 7 years old? And I always also ask about the grandparents because there was a clear pattern every single client. It was like the generational patterns are so powerful, so strong, and they truly need to be addressed. There's so much that we are unconsciously repeating to a point where one story where my client was conceived at the back of the car seat while her parents had a couple of drinks, and then she lost her virginity in exactly the same situation as one example. And there's so many others. There's so many repetitions of this type. The guidance that always occurred from the higher self when we connected on a soul level was to recognize the difference between biological parents and their human body conditioning anchored in generational trauma, and the difference between our celestial divine parents, representation of divine feminine energy of pure love emanation and wisdom, and representation of divine masculine as that light and structure, sacred geometry that is holding everything in place, and allowing that to start nourishing us from inside out, and then recalibrating the DNA patterning and guiding us back towards that balance between the two, where we allow sense of feeling supported, where we allow the knowing that we are connected to that unconditional love and infinite wisdom, and then everything else that comes with it. So the sessions that were most impactful were when clients allowed themselves to remember the deep love there is for their own soul from within their own being, kind of restoring connection with the divine within us. I think that's such an important step in our healing journey. Do you agree?
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. So tell me a little bit about how this whole galactic astrology journey began. So I understand during those QHHT sessions, you asked for your clients' birth information so that you could look at their charts after each session. So, yeah, tell me more about that.
Yeah, exactly. Over the 7 years that I facilitated these regression sessions full time, I would say the first half of that time or that era of mine, the focus was primarily on healing generational trauma and finding sense in their own life. And the other half, these healing portions started happening much faster. And I noticed there was a pattern across the QHHT Practitioners Collective. There is a forum where we all connect and share our experiences. So that was around maybe 2015, 16, 17. We started noticing how much quicker it is for clients, for people to transmute whatever they stumbled upon energetically within their being. Things are healing so much faster now. And I feel or believe it's because there is such huge collective effort. I mean, individually, there are so many individuals, hundreds upon hundreds of thousands of people for many, many years are focusing on their own healing. So the transformation is like a ripple effect. It's becoming easier for us to not only heal, but also to tap into our soul records, into the quantum field. So then last 3 years of my regression work, the experiences of soul memories, not only from incarnations on Earth, but also on other lifetimes in other star systems started to come in place. So that's when I started exploring the galactic astrology alignments to other star systems. And it started with ones that are more commonly known, like Sirius, Arcturus, and Pleiades. I started recognizing those patterns. And then I was naturally curious about other star systems. So the key memories or the key theme or signature that comes from people remembering incarnations and deep soul connections with beings of light that are not on Earth, but in other star systems, somewhere in cosmos, is this immense amount of love and wisdom and telepathy. And knowing that they're here through choice with the intention to bring higher frequency, higher consciousness, and anchoring it on Earth. That there is a desire to support this planetary being in her process of healing and transformation because somehow it affects the whole across other star systems. So there is just immense amount of compassion and collective agreement to do something together for the benefit of entire galaxy and beyond. So that was always incredible to witness. Just waterfalls of tears when people had that recognition.
Beautiful. So you created this incredible modality, quantum soul guidance, galactic astrology, and I actually went through this program last year, and I've already told you this. It was the most stimulating, expansive, inspirational, educational experience I've ever had. So thank you so much for putting all of that content together. And I love giving these sessions. I love looking at galactic astrology charts. It's my favorite thing to do. And I have to say, congratulations on the relaunch of galacticastrochart.com. Great job, Julia. It looks amazing.
Thank you. Thank you. I'm really overwhelmed with the positive feedback. It's beautiful to see and just feeling the excitement. I had no idea how many people were using the calculator because we didn't have a login system before for public. I cannot believe how many people are actually using it and loving it and enjoying it. So it's an absolute honor to be here at this point and supporting our collective understanding of astrology and our place in the universe. So, and it's just the beginning, feels like.
Yeah, it really does feel like just the beginning. So, if you are interested in looking at your galactic report and at your galactic placements, you can go to galacticastrochart.com and download that report for free still. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay, excellent.
Thank you.
Well, so yeah, of course. I want to spread the word, the good news that that's available to folks who feel called.
If I may, so with this rebranding and redesigning of the calculator, I felt strongly about including selected asteroids in the free version so that people can explore their connection to ancient lifetimes here on Earth. Because what I've discovered in the last year is that I firmly believe now that the stars in our birth chart may be reflecting our soul history in other star systems, but the asteroids in our birth chart may be reflecting our soul history on Earth in ancient times, whether it's Atlantis, ancient Egypt, ancient Greece, Lemuria, Hyperborea, and so many others. So I feel that the asteroid belt that formed in our solar system is a result of an explosion of a planet, something that used to be whole and beautiful as a result of whatever conflicts were going on and whatever occurred to blast that beautiful planetary being into thousands upon thousands of rocky pieces that is now orbiting between Mars and Jupiter. I wonder, is it possible? I believe that's what it is, that every fragment of these asteroids is holding energetically a puzzle piece to our collective human history on Earth. It seems to be the case as I explored some of these selected asteroids in people's charts and focusing on people who have had spontaneous recalls of their experience either in ancient Egypt or ancient Atlantis, or some having deep connection to Pacific Ocean land area, so connected to Lemuria. They all had these selected asteroids that I connect to these ancient times in very prominent positions in their chart, and based on the aspect or house placement or zodiacal alignment, everything reveals piece of the story. There's really something to it. So I wonder, is it possible that right now, with this volume of souls on Earth, when I went to school, we were 4.5 billion in population, now almost or over 8 billion. So in such a short amount of time, in a couple of decades, we have doubled the amount of souls incarnating on Earth. And I wonder, could it be by design that we are coming to remember what has been forgotten, what has been suppressed? We are guided to relive whatever traumas are still stuck in the soul records of Earth as a planetary being in her own unconscious field. So we go through experiences in this life. Something triggers us into deep emotional response. But what I'm seeing and witnessing it across those 7 years of facilitating regression sessions, what is triggering us in this incarnation is usually an echo of a repeated pattern anchored in trauma somewhere a long time ago. There is a core moment where this trauma occurred, and then because it's stuck, it's like this knot that is there, that is not allowing energies to move properly. Something needs to be witnessed, something needs to be understood from a higher perspective and resolved, dissolved. Something needs to be learned from it. It's our collective hero's journey through calling us back home. So I feel collectively we are doing that. We are helping to heal our beautiful Mother Earth's soul records so that she can be transformed into this higher octave of her beingness, just like we are witnessing it in our own lives. And if we are fractal expression of her, we can see how beautifully things can transform in our reality when we heal, how wonderfully our body can regenerate, how wonderfully the reality can suddenly align to something much more beautiful, where you feel like you're blessed and life is magical. What if Earth herself is ready for this type of transformation after thousands upon thousands of years of wars? We are here in many millions, bringing more love, more light, more peace, so that we can create this ripple effect that will crumble anything and anyone who is not willing to align with that higher expression, higher call for evolution and greater connectivity and greater harmony. So it's a wonderful pondering to have, and I feel honored to be walking side by side with so many light warriors and master alchemists like you, Heather.
Julia, thank you. Yeah, so beautiful. Thank you for sharing that. And thank you for bringing in the piece about our asteroids in our natal chart being connected to ancient civilizations. Now, do you have a webinar on Patreon about that that's available? I think I remember hearing you say something
Yes.
about that.
The easiest way to find it is for people to go to my website, juliabalaz.com, and click on the research page. Scrolling down, the webinar is right there. So I share a couple of case studies, examples of what these asteroids in birth charts can look like and how they can manifest as real life stories, real life experiences, or even expressions through our being, whatever we are called to. So there's the free webinar, and just in a couple of days from this recording, I'll release an entire course on that, which I've been writing since November. It's April now, so several months. It's been a beautiful journey. I uncovered, more deeper insights. So can't wait to share that with the world and help people better understand something they already knew on some level through the stories that have been submitted through this research page that I've just mentioned. It's very clear that there are many people that since childhood, from very early on, they have a connection to something ancient, and to the point where they had these beautiful synchronicities, whether it's a book. Let's say the connection is to ancient Egypt. So this person, if the asteroids of ancient Egypt are in their birth chart for a reason, they will first in early childhood experience reading books about Egypt. These books will just be in their proximity. Then later on, they find themselves visiting ancient Egypt and then have a profound experience, or just through dream state, what seems like a random day, they recall a memory that really feels like theirs, but it's another incarnation. And if you look at the transits during the recall, those asteroids are always there, and kind of just validating that this is not your imagination. This is a real connection that means something. And if you're remembering it, there's always a higher reason. There is higher design, orchestration, and you becoming conscious of it, you can then better understand what to do with it, how to allow it to serve this greater collective mission. So I really hope that what I've put together in this course, the way I put it together, the way I designed it, the intention is to gain that understanding and clarity, and then being able to apply these memories into your incarnation and play your unique role with joy and humility and responsibility, kind of co-creating with everyone else.
This is incredible, Julia. Thank you so much for diving into this work. I'm so inspired by you. I want to pick up on a thread from our interview on your show, the Practitioners podcast that you have. So we talked about how I didn't come to this work until I had done at least 7 years of ancestral healing work, just dealing with, the Filipino side of my family, my West African ancestors on my paternal side. I also have Northern European ancestors on my paternal side. There was a lot for me to sift through before I was ready to look at my galactic placements, because as you said, the traumas that we can experience in this lifetime are usually echoes of galactic traumas. So can you speak to why it's better, or it's going to serve you more to do your ancestral healing work with your blood ancestors before diving into your star ancestors?
Thank you. And what actually just came through, I've never seen it so clearly and beautifully. Before, I used to have different answer, but now what I feel is more important in this scenario is that when you heal your ancestral lineage, you feel safe to connect to your ancestral lineage and you feel their support coming from behind you and from beneath you, so that then when you expand into the cosmos and connect with all kinds of energetics, that ancestral support can play such a powerful role in keeping you safe, but also helping you navigate the vast cosmic space. And we're not really going out there, we're going within, because the whole cosmos is inside us. But I'm grateful that for the first time I see this layer very clearly, that support, because what I've witnessed over the years with people who had really challenging, difficult ancestral history, they didn't want to connect with ancestors at all. They felt so disconnected, and you could always see it energetically in their feet. There would have been issues with their legs and knees and ankles, and they literally did not want to. They were repelled by the idea of connecting to ancestors, speaking about the heaviest kind of traumas. So going out there, exploring cosmic connections, if you don't have those roots healed and deep and wide as an anchor mechanism, it is going to burn you out going into space, growing your crown. And it can get to a point, it doesn't have to be anything scary, but it is physically uncomfortable experience. That burnout of going too far up high then manifests as finding it hard to articulate words, feeling ungrounded, feeling spacey, feeling all over the place. And that all can be sorted out when the roots are firmly grounded energetically. So I think that's the most important motivation to why we want to address our connection to ancestors, making sure that it can be healthy before we go further up. And for those who find it really difficult to connect with their ancestors because of actions that may have been done, what I witnessed through the regression session is when healings occurred, who came through from the ancestral lineage was not the trauma condition, human ego side of the ancestors, but the higher self part of their soul essence that is pure, filled with love, filled with wisdom. There's so much compassion. There's so much kindness there. So if you can explore the idea of what if there is a much more beautiful side to my ancestral spirit that is safe to connect. And if that doesn't fly, then just go straight to Divine Mother, Father archetype and make sure that you work through them and perhaps envision that root-based connection through Mother Earth as representation of Divine Feminine, and then see the masculine in the galactic center, perhaps. But the connection needs to be grounded first, right?
Yes. Yes. I mean, that certainly was my experience once I opened up to the idea of being in connection with my healed and whole ancestors, in the ancestral realm. I felt this incredible sense of confidence and empowerment. I just felt like I have a whole team of people working behind the scenes 24/7 to set me up for huge wins, for big celebrations. And I just felt so empowered, like I could conquer anything, that I was always divinely protected and just so loved by the ancestors that I had a lived experience with, like my grandparents, but also the ones that I had never met but had dreamed about me. So, yeah, thank you for speaking to that.
I would like to add, if I may, and thank you for
Yeah.
mentioning all that, that if the idea of first 7 generations before you feels heavy, there are deep ancestors that go 100 generations back. And I was blessed with experiencing connection with my deep ancestors that did not experience wars and the destruction and awful things. Like it felt like pre-trauma ancestors, just pure, beautiful energy from, it felt like perhaps Hyperborea era, before Atlantis, before Lemuria. It felt Nordic. The energy felt blue. And it was an experience before falling asleep. And it was during October, November time when you have All Saints, I always feel my ancestors stronger around that time. And they just came to me so beautifully with song. At first, I heard Polish language. I don't speak Polish, but suddenly I heard Polish chatter in my head. So I think it's just to help me identify that this was coming from my mother's lineage. And then it was going deeper, deeper, deeper into the past, and almost feeling like a Pleiadian human connection through the Nordic land incarnations. The message they said, it felt like a collective message too, was remember who you really are, remember your roots, and feel the frequency of your origins, and don't let the world confuse you into thinking you're something else. In essence, there was a beautiful sense of women working together, singing joyfully, laughing, men working together, singing, joking, laughing, doing things together as a community for the whole, and then the couples coming together in their relationships. But it was just such beautiful, pure, lighthearted state of being, state of existence. And it felt like the importance of remembering it felt very relevant for all of us. I feel we are guided, we are called to bring back that way of being in community, enjoy singing and appreciating blessings of everyday life, mundane experiences, but it's about the connection and doing it together for the betterment of the whole. It was beautiful. Deep ancestors. They're safe to connect with.
I love it. Oh my gosh, that is so beautiful. Thank you for sharing that, Julia. And thank you for mentioning the Pleiades again, because I want to dive into your natal chart actually now. And the first thing I want to say is, I think you mentioned this, we actually have a lot of similarities in our natal chart. So you're an Aries sun at 0 degrees. I'm an Aries sun at almost 3 degrees. I'm also a Gemini rising. I also have Chiron and Taurus in the 12th house, and we both have Neptune in the 7th in Sagittarius. So I thought that was interesting. You're a double Gemini, right? Gemini rising and Gemini moon. So that's a lot of air, but that makes so much sense because you're an amazing communicator. You are an amazing messenger. You're absolutely a curious person, right? You love learning. I mean, I know you a little bit, so I feel comfortable saying that. But this ascendant of yours, at it's 0 degrees Gemini, correct, is
Yes.
conjunct the star Pleione in the Pleiades. And Uranus, the planet of disruption and rebellion and evolutionary change, just re-entered the sign of Gemini on the 25th. And so I want to hear from you. What was that experience like for you? Because for those of you who are not familiar with astrology, your rising sign, the way I see it, is the vehicle for your divine mission. And it's the lens that you see everything through. It's your perception, your perception of reality. And it's also the energy that people first pick up on when they meet you. And so with this placement, how was this transit for you? And what do you feel like the Pleiadian influence is on this transit for the collective?
Yes, yeah. So this return feels really good. For me, this Pleiadian frequency manifests first and foremost as a highly optimistic view on life and seeing the best in everyone and everything. So I feel with this Uranus activation of Pleiadian star seeds, anyone who may have not even just conjunction, but any other placements, but those in particularly who have early Gemini or late Taurus, they may feel guided to hold on to that vision of highest possible outcome for themselves individually, for others, collective, planet Earth, and do not let doom and gloom media confuse them in any way. And it's fascinating, actually, it's becoming clear now, in particular this year, while many astrologers have been predicting based on cycles of war on Earth through Uranus in Gemini, World War II, World War I, other revolutions were occurring during the 7-year transit of Uranus through Gemini. But I feel like because collectively so many are consciously aware of their Pleiadian connection, and so many collectively are becoming aware of who they are on a soul level, we have an amazing opportunity to hold a vision of not manifesting this war that may feel like imminent for so many. I believe we are living in the age of miracles, and this is one of the opportunities that we have right now. We may be initiated into master manifester role, not individually, but collectively. And of course, it affects us individually too. But I would just highly encourage everyone who may feel guided to hear this to stay strong in holding the vision of highest potential, highest possibility for our collective. So yeah, highly optimistic. And Pleiadians are also amazing cheerleaders. You can see that in my expression within my community, highly optimistic. So the themes of the shadow expression of that I've experienced when Uranus was regressing back into Taurus late last year, that's actually when I healed that connection between my father and realizing how it was affecting my connection with the representation of divine father archetype. There is a story in Pleiades where the seven sisters had mother Leone and father Atlas, and Atlas was placed to hold the entire heavens on his shoulders and kind of stuck there with that role, so not really available to their to his daughters. There is an element of, again, fatherly figure not being available when you need it. And that theme, as I was exploring it during the last Uranus going back to Taurus, when I mentioned it on one of the videos on my channel, other Pleiadian starseed mentioned the same kind of wound, father wound, seemed to have been present. And of course, Sedna is transiting similar degrees, and it's a very slow transit. And Sedna in her mythology also has a deep, deep father wound. So that too is being activated. I feel because it's now last pass of Uranus through the Pleiadian degrees, there is going to be a collective sense of completion of this and a restoration of our healthy connection with divine masculine and divine feminine as well, holding to a more balanced approach, because we don't want to be naive. That naivety can be strong with Pleiadians, but I feel we have been guided for a long time. And perhaps it's the Alpha Centauri anchor on the opposing end in early degrees of Sagittarius and late degrees of Scorpio is where Alpha Centauri star is anchored. Alpha Centaurians are grounded, realistic, a collective holding and protecting frequency of truth. What is real? What is genuine? So I appreciate being able to see how important that is too, because in Pleiadian history, in their naivety and desire for happy, 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 always happy, they ended up intervening in a process that had nothing to do with them and then paying hard price for it. So it's important. One of the lessons for Pleiadians and now Uranus is kind of activating that once again, that we have to respect and honor everyone's divine timing for their own awakening, for their own desire to be healed. We cannot push people to get better and heal if they're not ready. So that's another thing that perhaps may feel quite loud for the Pleiadian starseeds at this time.
Julia, thank you so much for sharing that. And yes, learning that people will, decide to pursue healing or not, learning that that is their choice, that is their soul contract, and that we can't control it. That was a huge lesson for me. I learned the hard way that you cannot drag people to their healing. Everyone's on their own timeline. I think part of why I'm here as kind of a family storyteller is, like my friend Allie would say, who also had an experience with the Pleiadians. Her Chiron is conjunct Pleiades Alcyone. She had an experience with them several years ago. But yeah, she said something to the effect of, part of being the family storyteller is realizing that you are there to be a witness to other people's destinies and to not control. their destinies, right? Everybody has their soul contract that they're going to play out, and we don't really know what that is for them.
100%. Yeah. One of the reoccurring scenario during the 7 years of regression session, when people regress to life between lives, when they were shown how they themselves planned current incarnation. And one particular story that always stuck with me, I may have shared it once or twice before, was a client who ended up growing up in a foster care with her siblings, I think 4 or 5 of them, and having very difficult upbringing, going through so many difficult, challenging moments. And when she regressed to life between lives, she had a vision of them kind of looking at the table, what looked kind of like a map, but it was like a quantum field that was alive and active and going through many different timelines. And what took her breath away was witnessing how her and her siblings were laughing while planning some of the most difficult experiences for themselves. She said, "Oh my God, we're like black humor family." I can't believe it that they themselves planned some of the really difficult experiences. And then she realized how much wisdom comes as a result of it, how much they are able, on the other side, recognize their soul strength and many other amazing character qualities that are built during those experiences. So there is meaning in everything.
Yes, yes, indeed. Well, so Julia, I want to give you an opportunity now to share anything that you're excited about, that you're working on, that you'd like for my community to know about.
Thank you. What's most alive for me right now and this year are these ancient asteroids. I feel like I really need to get them out of my system, communicate them, share everything I know about them. In the course that is being published now in first week of May, I shared a good handful of case studies from the stories that were submitted through the research page, but there are so many more. And I have an idea of how to share them publicly as shorter video content or social media content where I will keep sharing examples of what certain alignment looks like and then how it manifested in real life. So I feel I'll be focusing on these ancient eras all this year. And perhaps it's by divine design based on the recalibration we're going on a collective level, which astrologically we can see with the shift of 3 outer planets into new signs. So it's like a generational shift, change of energetics on a collective level. And just from observing how many people have spontaneous recalls of past lives and really old ancient times and skills from Atlantis and Egypt, the fact that people are remembering, there has to be a meaning to it. Like we're meant to know, we're meant to remember. And the purpose of it is to reveal what's hidden, heal it, and then elevate it into our higher expression of being, making better choices this time around, as like it's cyclical evolutionary journey, right, in our collective. So perhaps it's not by coincidence that I will be massaging this idea of how much we are connected to ancient history. And in many cases, we are our own ancestors. I've witnessed that many times during the regressions where people realize, oh my God, I am my own great great grandmother or great great grandfather. So truly what we do now affects generations before us. So once that's out, I feel I'll come back to the stars because there's just so much more there too. So yeah, I look forward to connecting with people either through my YouTube community or Patreon community. People feel safer, I suppose, to share their stories and alignments on Patreon. It's really beautiful community building there. And I'm doing monthly live Q&A calls where people can share snippets to their chart. And then I kind of just riff what is coming through as relevant for them. And those are such amazing experiences too. So much love to everyone when they decide to connect.
Wonderful. So, where should they go if they want to find out more about you? Should they go to your website?
Just juliabalaz.com. And then at the bottom, I have icons for whatever social media people tend to navigate towards. But from juliabalaz.com is the easiest way to navigate, as well to the calculator and everything else.
Perfect. Well, I am so proud to be a quantum soul guidance galactic astrology practitioner. I'm so grateful that my ancestors, blood and star ancestors, guided me to you and your work. And I just appreciate you so much for saying yes to being in dialogue with me on the show. I know you don't do this very often, so this is really, really special. I have one last question for you that I ask all of my guests. What are the new cycles that you are starting in your lineages?
Balance. Balance and centeredness, joy, ease, co-creation. It all comes from the balance. And then that being in the center, being present. Balance is the key word that comes to mind, 100%. Because when you are in balance, you are centered, you are able to recognize everything that is out of balance. So it's much, much easier to keep the house clean and keep your reality and your relationships in balance. So it's like everything comes from the center of it. And my hope also is for generations after me, the prayer that I'm having is that I will inspire deeper connection to divine, because it hasn't been very present in my family. Although my grandmother, my mother's mother, she played organ in church every day her whole adulthood, but she never spoke of her faith ever. So I think she was just playing that beautiful, harmonious music, for which I'm grateful, because I kind of think that while my egg was in her womb, was receiving this amazing harmonic energetics, and maybe that's why I am able to perceive the harmonics of creation, feel them and sense them and navigate them. So I want to inspire deeper connection to divine, and it's something that can be spoken about without it feeling cringy, but still a long way to go, but I'll get there.
You absolutely will. I have no doubt. Oh my gosh, Julia, I'm sending you just huge hugs through the screen. I just appreciate you so much. And I'd love to have you on the show again at some point, because there's so many things that we could talk about. I mean, we didn't talk about your Aries sun and Neptune moving into Aries, Saturn moving into Aries. I mean, there are just so many interesting things that you're up to. You're so wise. You're so inspirational. I'm just really happy to know you and honored to know you.
Thank you so much, Heather. And I do want to say, for anyone who did not get a chance to watch our first conversation on the Galactic Ambassadors podcast that you mentioned before, I wholeheartedly invite viewers to go watch it, because we did share your chart and you're just such a wonderful example and validation of what I'm seeing over and over, that what's written in your chart, like seeing your alignments in your fourth house and connection to ancestry, what you are living is such a beautiful embodiment of what was written in heavens for your soul when you were born. So thank you also for being such inspiration. And it's been highly enjoyable. I love the flow that I have with you. So absolutely, I'll be happy to come and join your community again.
Yes. Oh my gosh. So happy. Thank you. Well, everyone, thank you. We will see you next time on the Cycle Starters podcast. Take care. Thanks, Julia.
Cheerio.